Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 4th of September, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So I've been away since Wednesday. That was when the last refuel was. I did say that I would do one on Saturday, but unfortunately had to kind of skip that one there. So there is a lot of news to get through, as you can see from all of the tabs I have open. So I'm super excited to get into today's episode. But before we do, just wanted to give a quick shout out here that I'm going to be attending a meetup hosted in Melbourne on a Wednesday night called Liquid Staking for Dummies. This is going to be a lot smaller than the previous meetups that I've been to, if some of you have been there. But if you're interested in this, I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But yeah, it's based in Melbourne, obviously where I live, so not sure how many of you are based in Melbourne as well, but I'm going to be speaking there about liquid staking alongside some other folks, so it should be a really great little meetup there. So as I said, it will be smaller. You do need to RSVP on the website here, which I'll link in the YouTube description below, but just wanted to give a quick shout out there. And that's happening on Wednesday. All right, so we had all the ETF news, right, last week with the Grayscale stuff, where Grayscale won their lawsuit against the SEC, and then price went nuts and everyone started getting really bullish again. And I think I remember saying at the time that I expected the price to sell back down because I don't think there's any new money still in the ecosystem right now. I believe that it's just traders playing the games. And of course, if it's just the same money sloshing around, then we're not going to have any sustained pumps. And that's exactly what's been happening for quite a while now. And you guys will recall that I've been saying that I thought the rest of the year, or basically all of 2023, would just be sideways crab market action, which is basically what it is. And obviously there's still 4 months left. 4 months. I'm doing my math correctly there. 4 months left of the year. So, things can happen. Things can change. Things can happen quickly. Maybe in December we have like a pump and we break out of our crab range. But I don't know. I'm not necessarily feeling that. I'm still feeling like Q1, Q2 kind of thing of when that starts to happen next year. But the reason why I bring this up again is because all of the ETF applications got delayed last week. So this was not unexpected for them to get delayed. There was no way the SEC was going to approve them, especially after they just got egg on their face from losing that Grayscale case. And as I mentioned last week, there's a bunch of speculation about what the SEC is going to do now, and it seems like they're just going to keep delaying. They may just delay until the final deadline. As you can see here on this screenshot, which I'll link in the YouTube description below, the final deadline for all of these ETFs basically falls in March of next year, except for the ARK one, which is on January 10th here, I believe. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to read the dates here, but it's American dates, and it's like backwards. It's hard for me to read it sometimes. But yeah, so 10th of January is the final deadline for the ARK Bitcoin ETF, or Bitcoin Spot ETF. The rest of them have deadlines ranging from the 15th of March to the 19th of March, and there's one that has a deadline of the 19th of April and the 11th of May. Now, obviously, all of these can be just approved together. There's no need to wait for any of these deadlines to approve it, but if the SEC really wanted to be petty, they would basically wait until the final deadline and then just approve them all at once. Now, the thing is that obviously ARK has a deadline of the 10th of January, which is 2 months before the rest of them. It's 2 months before, the majority of them here. So it remains to be seen what the SEC is going to do. Are they going to just approve them all in January, or are they going to force ARK to refile and then approve them all in the middle of March there? Either way, I feel like we're going to get an approval. I'm very bullish on that. And as I've said before, they have to approve all the ETFs at once, else they'll probably open themselves up to even more lawsuits that they stand to lose. So yeah, it's either going to be in January or March, probably. If they do deny them all on the final deadline, and deny them all in March, then they all have to refile, and that gives the SEC another kind of whatever it is, 6-8 months or whatever. I don't know how long the period is here in order to approve them all again. So that might mean that they approve them all at the end of next year. But in terms of timing and in terms of how I think about these things, as I've mentioned before, the Bitcoin halving is in April next year. So how uncanny would it be if all of these ETFs just get approved in March, right? So literally a month before the halving, 2 months before the halving, no, it's a month. Sorry, I was thinking of May there. So a month before the halvening happens, it's just, it's too perfect to be coincidence. And I don't know, I'm not one to fall for any conspiracies or anything like that. But if you were, having a Bitcoin ETF and you wanted to get as many inflows as possible, as fast as possible, it'd probably be better for it to be approved at a time when the narrative starts picking up again. Obviously, around the Bitcoin halvening, the narrative definitely picks up again. And I think a lot of the ecosystem is expecting 2024 to be just a much more positive year for crypto. So it seems like that might happen there. So yeah, these delays are kind of expected at this point. And as I said, the final deadline ranges from January to May next year. But the majority of the ETFs are in March, but they could just approve ARCs on by the 10th of January, and then also approve all of the rest of the ETFs at the same time, and so we could get the approval as early as January, or they could just approve them all sometime this year, right? So we'll have to keep our eye on that. But as I said, like, delays are expected at this point in time, but we're getting closer as time goes on. All right, so the Department of Justice, their Tornado Cash indictment apparently got the law wrong. That's according to a new report published by Cravath here, which is a working paper written by their lawyers, which examines FinCEN's 2019 guidance on money transmitters in the context of the Tornado Cash indictment. And now Jake Chavinsky quote tweeted this and said, "This paper does an exceptional job explaining how the Department of Justice ignored FinCEN's guidance on the definition of a money transmitter. If FinCEN's guidance was right, the Department of Justice can't win on this charge." Now, I think that's kind of like the general, maybe kind of gist of it when it comes to this Tornado Cash indictment against the developers. They're trying to go after them for like money laundering and knowingly profiting from money laundering because they consider them a money transmitter. And as Jake says here, if the Department of Justice loses based on FinCEN's guidance here and loses that point, then a lot of their case starts to fall apart very quickly. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, but that is definitely a positive in favor of the Tornado Cash developers here. But it remains to be seen how this shakes out. Obviously, the US really wants to build a strong case here because they need to present a strong case for why they also sanction Tornado Cash as well, and also dissuading anyone from building similar tools. That's kind of like their ultimate goal, right? Of dissuading people from building similar privacy tools in the name of, I guess, like protecting their sanctions against countries like North Korea and anti-terrorism financing and all that stuff there. But, you know, the I guess, like, cynic in me thinks it's also because the US just doesn't like privacy, right? They don't like it when people have privacy. I mean, no government really likes when people have privacy, and especially not when they have financial privacy, which is exactly what Tornado Cash offered. And they realized that Tornado Cash was quite literally unstoppable, and the only thing that they could do was sanction it. They couldn't shut it down. Sanctioning it did kill a lot of it, right? They had that chilling effect there where a lot of the usage was kind of drowned out, because obviously if you're a US citizen or person, you could face up to 30 years in prison, massive fines if you were to use Tornado Cash today. So it's had that massive chilling effect, but it still exists, right? It's still on the chain. You can still interact with it. You know, I think the current censorship on the relay level is at like 50% or 40% or something. So you still have a greater than 50% chance per block to get your transaction included. So, you know, the sanctions, while they did chill a lot of the usage here, they didn't have the effect of shutting it down completely, which is just testament, you know, a massive testament to Ethereum's censorship resistant capabilities here. But you can read this report for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, another big win in the US courts was a case that was against Uniswap being thrown out completely. So you can see here that the judge in the Southern District of New York threw out this case on August 29th against Uniswap, and also found that Ethereum is a commodity, not a security. So just another precedent building kind of exercise here that labels ETH a commodity and not a security, which is very, very cool to see. And it also implied that wrapped BTC is a commodity, but apparently that's much less clearly stated. Now, for the case against Uniswap itself, Hayden put out a tweet thread about it, and basically described exactly what the logic was here. I think the original case was that they were suing for damages or something. So these plaintiffs here, you can see at the top here, were suing Uniswap Labs, or I guess their official company name is Universal Navigation Incorporated. They were suing them, I think, because they wanted to get some kind of like recourse for something that happened in the Uniswap smart contracts. But as Hayden says here, basically the court found that the smart contracts were immutable. The Uniswap team doesn't have any control over them and doesn't actually have any direct, I guess, like workings within them. They're not money transmitter or anything like that. And yeah, I mean, you can see the full breakdown here in Hayden's tweet thread. But what's really positive about this, and maybe you missed this, is that the judge presiding over this case, Catherine Polk Failer here, she is the judge that has been assigned to the Coinbase versus SEC case. So it seems that she understands how this technology works, which is obviously a huge positive for Coinbase because obviously, the Coinbase versus SEC case is a lot larger than this case and has a lot more implications. So it's great to see that a judge that knows what she's talking about has been assigned to this here. But yeah, as I said, you can read Hayden's Twitter thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. It's got full details on the Uniswap case itself and the best, juiciest bits from the court documents here. All right, so just something I came across here that ETHprofit.eth tweeted about. So apparently, the Colorado Department of Motor Vehicles now accepts ETH for online services. You can pay in ETH for basically, I guess, renewing your registration and renewing your license and all that stuff there. You can see here that the cryptocurrency is an additional form of payment for this year. And I'm not sure what cryptos they support. I would assume BTC and ETH are first on the list. I'd be wondering if they support stablecoins, but I haven't checked it out myself. No surprise here that Colorado is, I guess, like progressive, considering that ETH Denver is one of the biggest Ethereum events and it's hosted right in the heart of Colorado here. So yeah, I wasn't surprised by this, but generally just really great to see this. So yeah, if you want to pay for, I guess, your registration and your license renewal and things like that, or even potentially fines, I guess, like speeding fines and things like that. I'm not sure how it works in the US here, you can pay them using ETH today, which is very, very cool. All right, so we had another fresh all-core devs update from Tim Biker on September 1st here, going over everything, I guess, that happened on the call. The meaty part of it was this tweet here that where Tim says, once we're happy with the testing on DevNet 8, we'll launch DevNet 9, which includes the final spec changes for the upgrade, most notably the precompiled to regular contract change for EIP 4788. And here's the work in progress spec. So Dencun is coming, guys. I have had no reason to change my November timeline estimate here. Obviously, we have the new Holski testnet or Holeshki testnet going live on September 15th, which is fast approaching. It's 11 days away right now. And that is the merge anniversary, by the way, guys. It has almost been a year since the merge. Can you believe it? Like, I can't, honestly. It felt like just yesterday that we did the merge. But yeah, the year anniversary is coming up. That's when that new testnet will launch. This DevNet 9, I think, is launching this week, to be honest. I haven't seen any tweets about it yet and about kind of like when exactly it's going to be launching, but it's going to be launching very soon. I would assume that there might be one or two at most more devnets after this, and then it seems like they're just going to be going along to testnets, because as you can see here, pretty much everything is done. Everything is merged. They're just doing the devnets, like in terms of the pull requests and all the EIP stuff. It's all done, and these, I think there'll be DevNet 9 and DevNet 10 potentially, maybe DevNet 11. I don't know. I feel like 2 at 3 at most more devnets, but these devnets are usually done pretty quickly. And then we're going to move on to the test nets, obviously doing Sepolia probably first, and then doing Holeshki next. That brings us into probably October sometime, and then November for mainnet. That's the kind of timeline from here, guys. So we are well on track in my mind to get Dencun in November, which obviously includes EIP 4844, which is proto-dank sharding, which we're all very excited about. But there are a bunch of other EIPs in this upgrade as well, and that will round us out for the year. And I would assume the next upgrade will probably be sometime in April or May next year or something like that. It may be. So I guess like if you take it as like a 6-month cadence of network upgrades, you would have to say, yeah, basically May next year would be the next upgrade. But I think that the next upgrade is probably not going to be Verkle trees or statelessness. I feel like that is probably going to be towards the end of the year. So if you say that May will basically be a collection of EIPs that have been kind of pushed out since the merge and they haven't been included yet, but they're ready to go, you could see it. We could potentially see the next upgrade in April. And the next upgrade already has a name. I think it was called like Electra or something like that. Or there was kind of like a Ethereum Magicians thread on naming conventions here. But that's already being worked on in the background. So yeah, I reckon April, probably May for that. And then hopefully, again, by the end of the year, we'll have like a November kind of Verkle trees or something like that, which kicks off the Verge, obviously, there. But yeah, very, very close to Dencun now. All right, speaking of Ethereum core dev related things, Mike Nutter has a new ETH research post all about slashing in Ethereum. So this is a new AIP called EIP 7251, and the TLDR here and the slashing penalty analysis that Mike Nutter has done is that he says the primary concern around the proposal to increase the max effective balance, which is EIP 7251. So that's the EIP that I've talked about before, where essentially you would increase the effective balance per validator from 32 ETH to 2048 ETH, so that you could basically stake with anywhere from 32 ETH to 2048 ETH per validator, which would allow us to consolidate validators but still give us the same security guarantees because it's the same amount of ETH staked here. So one of the, I guess, concerns is the increased slashing risk taken on by validators with large effective balances. And so this document that Mike has published explores the 4 types of penalties incurred by a slash validator and how these penalties scale with effective balance, So they propose 2 things. The initial penalty is fixed to a constant amount or modified to scale sublinearly, and the correlation penalty is modified to scale quadratically rather than linearly. So you can read this for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but it really feels like we're going to get this EIP. I'm not sure when. It could happen in that upgrade, that Electra upgrade I was just talking about, but if it doesn't, it could happen by the end of the next year. But it feels like the concerns around it are getting ironed out. It feels like something that the core developers and researchers definitely really want. It's definitely something that I see the community, I guess, like generally wanting. There are concerns. Obviously, one of the concerns is being addressed in this research post here. And I've gone through them before, but I think that the benefits outweigh the concerns at this point. And the major 2 benefits really are basically consolidating validators so that everyone's bandwidth usage goes down, which is obviously great for individual kind of solo stakers and people that have limited bandwidth. And the other one is just better, I guess, like network stability and health, better overall kind of Ethereum health, but also the fact that you'll be able to compound your stake a lot more efficiently as a solo validator. And so instead of having to wait for another 32 ETH to build up, you could just add your stake, periodically to your effective balance. Add your stake rewards periodically to your effective balance here up to 2048 ETH, which will pretty much cover most solo stakers. I don't imagine there's that many solo stakers that have more ETH than that at stake. It's definitely kind of like a power law thing. So obviously that makes for a good kind of capital efficiency there, but also for staking pools and things like that, it also matters a lot. But anyway, you can go check out this slashing penalty analysis from Mike Nutter. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so Tony from the mevboost.pix website that I've talked about a bunch of times on the Refuel before has published a quick add-on proposal to Mike Nutter's and Vitalik's inclusion lists design. So the TLDR here is that by making sure that there are many potentially to be censored transactions in the mempool while enforcing their inclusion via inclusion lists, censoring parties can be completely kicked out of the ecosystem, or at least their life becomes much worse. So this is work that goes into a lot of the work that's being done around PBS and censorship resistant lists or inclusion lists that Vitalik has spoken about before, and this is like an add-on to that Tony has come up with here. So you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But this is another thing that I reckon like PBS and stuff will probably get punted out to 2025. I think that it's not ready yet, and I think there are higher priority things that need to go live before it does, and a lot of it is still in deep research. So yeah, if I was to give a timeline on PBS and MEV burn and anything related to that, it would probably be 2025 at this point, because it is critical to Ethereum, but it is not like time. I guess it's not as critical as other things in terms of things that need to be delivered and shipped onto mainnet here. And as I said, a lot of this is still in research phase. So you can go check out this post. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so a cool little tweet that I came across from ether.fi over the weekend. So this map that they've posted shows the locations of solo stakers who are helping to decentralize the Ethereum network one attestation at a time. So this is the Operation Solo Staker that I've talked about on the Refuel before, and this is basically where their nodes are around the world. So you can see that it's actually got like a pretty great distribution. There are unfortunately no nodes in Australia right now from what I can see on this map, and I think New Zealand has been completely cut off of this map as well, so I doubt there's any nodes there. But you can see that it basically covers a lot of the globe. Obviously, very heavy concentration in Europe right now, but there is one in in the US, I believe. Oh, actually, no, that might be Canada there. So there is none in the US right now, but there's one in Canada. There is none in Mexico, but there are a bunch of, there is 3 in South America. You've got, 4 in South America, I should say here. And then you have 1 in Kenya, it looks like. As I said, a bunch in Europe, 1 in Kazakhstan, 1 in Thailand, 1 in Malaysia, and 1 in, I believe, China there as well. And then, yeah, a bunch of others just scattered around here. So good to see that there isn't just concentrated in one location. Obviously, the US usually has a high concentration of these things, but it doesn't seem like they have any representation yet. So cool to see that. Just something that I wanted to show you guys, but this map's going to get more filled out over time as Operation Solo Staker continues to get traction. All right, so I spoke last week about the, I guess, concerns people had around the new data that was present on clientdiversity.org around execution layer client diversity. And I explained the difference between the execution diversity.info data and the Ethernodes data. Now, the Ethernodes data has actually been removed from clientdiversity.org completely, which I don't necessarily agree with. To be honest, as I explained last week, the data sets are completely different, and I'm not sure why Ethernodes was I mean, I know why Ethernodes was removed, but I'm not sure I agree with it. But at the same time, I think this is just part of a larger effort to get a more accurate picture on exactly where client diversity matters most, which is a lot of people believe it matters most in where which nodes the validators connect to, which makes sense. And in this blog post here today, the eTstaker community actually explains this and explains the execution diversity data. So I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out. But then also rated.network has updated their client distribution page as well, and they're using Ethernodes data. So they're not using the new data from execution, this data here from executiondiversity.info. They're using Ethernodes data. So we've kind of got a split here, I guess, on different data sources. And as I said, I explained it to you guys last week about what the differences are here. And Ethernodes data makes Geth look a lot better here. It's only at 58%, whereas with the client executiondiversity.info data, it's at 84%. And if you want to get a full breakdown on what the differences are here, you can check out this blog post from eTstaker. It is not a long post. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so Rocket Pool is undergoing 2 major upgrades over the next, I think, few years. I think this might be a 1 to 2 year roadmap here. So these 2 major upgrades are called Houston and Saturn. Now, of course, Jasper, one of the biggest Rocket Pool maxis that I know, has a great tweet thread explaining all of this. So the high-level summary is that there is a complete architecture redesign that is going forward with Rocket Pool right now, which is going to lead to a 10 times scalability increase. They're going to be doing more things around on-chain governance. They're going to be birthing Rocket Pool layer 2s, and they're going to be switching to a bonding curve mechanism for mini pools, which could get the mini pool requirement down to as low as 1.x ETH requirement. Now, this is quite a long tweet thread from Jasper. It's 30 tweets long, but if you are at all interested in Rocket Pool and how they plan to actually scale, I highly recommend giving this tweet thread a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. And also just a quick shout out here. This is Jasper's new Twitter account. His old one got banned. So if you haven't followed him on his new Twitter account yet, be sure to do so. Unfortunately, I don't know the chances of him getting back his old account here. So his new account is the one that he's going to be tweeting from. Now, I do want to have a little bit of discussion here around ETH staking generally and LSTs generally, because I guess lately over the last couple of weeks, people have been bringing up Lido's dominance again, and there's been a lot of noise around, protocols self-limiting and things like that. So I want to talk about 2 things here, and some of these things might be controversial, some of these things might be unpopular opinions, but I've been saying these things for quite a while now. So the first thing I want to talk about is that self-limiting stuff. So just for context here, there is a push from various community members to get different staking providers to self-limit the amount of ETH stake that they would, the amount of share of the network that they would get, and the share of the staking network that they would get, and the limit is 22%. Now, I got a few issues with this. One, I understand the social signaling that this does, but I don't think it actually relates or translates to anything practical. So when you look at the current landscape of the staking landscape, so let's go to the Radar.network website and let's look at who's actually at 22% or anywhere near it. There's only one entity that's near it, and that's Lido, of course. They have 32%. Okay, so if Lido agreed to limit to 22%, they would have to force unwind 10% of their validators, right? So 10% of their market share, they would have to force unwind. Okay. That's a pipe dream. Like, I'm just going to be honest here. That's a pipe dream. That's not going to happen. Lido, as an ecosystem, are for profit. There is a token there. What would you think would happen to the token's price if Lido was to force exit 10% of their market share? The price would tank. So the Lido token holders have absolutely no incentive to do this, right? So that's one thing, one part of it. The other part of it is that realistically, no other staking provider is probably ever going to reach 22%. It's too hard now. Lido was able to reach this market share for a few different reasons. One, they were a first mover. That's a huge advantage, right? They were a first mover in the LST space, and they offered a really great product to people, which was ST-ETH and easy staking when really no one else was doing it. So that's their main advantage there. So that's not to say that their network share isn't going to come down naturally over time. I think it will, but how is that going to happen? It's going to happen through more competition from the different providers. Obviously, the competition has to come from like Coinbase and Binance and Kraken and Rocket Pool and other such providers out there. And it will come from there. But generally, Lido's market share is only going to go down from that. I think that it remains to be seen what happens in a bull market. As I've explained before, what happens if ST-ETH loses its fair value, goes like 10% below fair value. I think there's going to be a lot of people arbing that, and they'll be withdrawing from Lido, and then Lido's market share will go down like that. But in the steady state of things, where things aren't crazy, people have no, opportunity to arbitrage it because the secondary market is so efficient and so liquid, and there's no craziness going on there. So generally, I've always said that I think that the way to reduce Lido's dominance is not this social signaling stuff. It's to build a better product. It's to compete with them. It's to vampire attack them. It's to do all that sorts of stuff, which I think a lot of the different entities are beginning to do and will be doing into the future. And also on that self-limiting talk as well, it's very easy for the protocols that have like less than 5% of market share to say that they're going to limit to 22%, because one, I think that they realistically know that they're probably never going to get to 22%, and two, they're not even near it. So it's just like free publicity for them to socially signal this to the wider market. And as I said, I don't think it actually translates to anything practical. It's just like a feel-good, fuzzy thing that people want to do. And if people want to do that, they can do that. But I'm more interested in the practical stuff here. I'm an ideologue as much as the next person is when it comes to keeping the big chain decentralized and making sure that no one entity has too large of a share. But I'm also very acutely aware of the practical implications of each of the different ways of doing things. And as I said before, I think the most practical way to get Lido's dominance down is to just compete with them. It's not to soft signal this kind of, social signaling stuff. I don't think that actually translates to anything practical there. But anyway, you can go give Jasper's tweet thread a read on the Rocket Pool stuff and how Rocket Pool is going to grow and make their ecosystem better in order to compete with outfits like Lido. I'll link the tweet thread in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so Ryan Sean Adams from Bankless he shared screenshots from a publication that was put out by Fidelity Digital Assets in August of 2023 called the Ethereum Investment Thesis, Ethereum's Potential as Digital Money and a Yield-Bearing Asset. So you can see here that the world's third largest asset firm with $4.2 trillion in assets released this thesis for Ethereum, and the thesis was basically bucketed into three different things. ETH as an aspiring money, ETH as a store of value, and ETH as a yield-bearing asset. And you can see the screenshots here. Now you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. Now, this was funny that it came out very shortly after I went on Bankless, Bankless Weekly Roll-Up last week, and I said to Ryan, because Ryan was the host with me this time instead of David, how he usually is. But I said to Ryan, I said, what do you think is going to happen with these outfits that have ETF applications in place for BTC? They're going to start publishing reports about BTC and about the investment case because they want to bring money in. But of course, they're going to do the same thing for ETH because they also have ETH ETFs that they've filed. Start with futures and then they're going to file for spot ETFs. And if you are filing these things, you obviously want to get as much market share as you can. So you're going to be putting out these investment theses and you're going to convince your clients about why they should be investing in these assets. And in my mind, ETH has the best investment thesis right now as a money, as a store of value, and as a yield-bearing asset, obviously with staking, but as so much more than that. And the fact that Ryan says here, they even referenced the Ultrasound Money website, as you can see here, the supply change, that's just awesome to me. And I think that deflationary narrative is also going to play a huge part in Ethereum's or ETH's investment thesis in the TradFi world, because TradFi, I think, loves yield the most, definitely. They're all about the yield, right? They also love assets when it comes to like store of value. They love predictable assets, but they also love the narratives of deflationary assets too. And I think that once it's explained to people about how ETH can offer a yield while also being deflationary, while also being a money and a store of value, that is an incredibly powerful thesis that I think a lot of people are going to latch onto, especially when they can buy ETH in with their brokerage accounts as an ETF, so that they can get tax advantage treatment of it. I think that's going to be big, and you really need to only look at Grayscale's GBTC and ETH products to see just how much demand there is for those types of products. So yeah, I do think that both BTC and ETH spot ETFs are going to get a lot of demand, but I do think that the ETH investment thesis is very easy to sell at this point. I think that these reports are going to be more common. I think they're going to be influenced a lot by what we say on crypto Twitter. I'm not to take credit here, but what I've been saying on my show for a very long time. Maybe there's someone out there who works at Fidelity or one of these big outfits who watches the refuel. I would love that, because please do these kind of reports, put these out there, educate your client base on what makes ETH a really, really great investment. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe ETH is, still and for the foreseeable future going to be the best long-term investment in crypto that you can make, especially from a store of value wealth preservation perspective versus anything else, including BTC. But you guys already know that I'm preaching to the choir. But yeah, you can check out the screenshots here. I'll link them in the YouTube description below. And the report is also linked here by Ryan. I'll link that for you there. All right, so Chainlink God published something from, shared a publication that was published by Swift over the weekend here. So this was a report that was published in August 2023 titled Connecting Blockchains, Overcoming Fragmentation in Tokenized Assets, Swift's Interoperability Experiments Connecting to Public and Private Blockchain Network. Now, Chainlink God says here, Swift published a new results report about their recent collaboration with Chainlink and 12 of the largest financial institutions on using CCIP for blockchain interoperability. So CCIP connected existing Swift infrastructure to multiple public-private blockchains. This is really, really cool. I've been trying to tell you guys that you need to be paying more attention to what Chainlink is doing here with CCIP, because if we're going to have, we are going to have, and we already have, an interconnected network of different blockchains, primarily Ethereum and L2s, and maybe even some private blockchains that use Ethereum's technology, we're going to need a way for them to communicate with each other. Now, of course, there are different ways of doing this communication. There are bridges, obviously. That's a different type of communication to what CCIP is here. But bridges is more about communicating, not so much communicating, but like bridging assets between chains. But when you want to do actual communication between different chains and between different networks, like the Swift network and blockchains, you can see here in this screenshot what that might look like. It might look like Swift talking to Chainlink CCIP with signed messages, and then Chainlink talking to the blockchains generally, whether it be Ethereum or L2s or whatever else, and then sending that kind of data and those updates, those status updates back to Swift. So it works in an interoperable way, and it can work in a way that's secure and trustless as well. So very, very cool to see this report. I mean, this is the stuff that we need, guys. I mean, it's actually named here. You can see here Swift talking to Chainlink CCIP, talking to the public Ethereum chain. They've also got Avalanche here for some reason. I don't know why Avalanche is there. I mean, I don't imagine they're going to be talking very much to Avalanche. But they've also got Quorum, which is a private chain, which was a private a fork of Ethereum that was built, I believe by JP Morgan to kind of like appeal to these kind of groups like Swift and banks and stuff like that there. But Chainlink God has the report linked here. You can go check it out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But very exciting stuff happening. And I know this might not seem exciting to crypto natives because we're all about crypto native stuff. We're all about like degenning and things like that. But this is the stuff that leads to mass adoption, guys. Like obviously the Swift network is absolutely massive in the real world, and it is massive, but also slow, clunky, inefficient. And they obviously want to make it more efficient, more effective. And what better way to do that than working with the leading Oracle provider and the leading kind of like data provider and kind of bridging provider in Chainlink, and talking to all these different blockchain ecosystems here. So you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so Arbitrum had a big announcement over the weekend, or at least on August 31st, which was their anniversary. So they call it Arbitrum Day. So this was the day that Arbitrum went live, but also last year on the 31st of August, Arbitrum Nitro went live. So they announced that they are taking a big leap with the release of the code and public testnet for Arbitrum Stylus. So I've talked about Stylus for a lot on the review before. It's basically this concept of allowing people to program in basically any language that they want on EVM and in WASM as well. So you can see here, this is what it basically looks like. So the EVM allows you to, if this picture wants to load, yeah, the EVM allows you to code in Solidity, compile down to EVM bytecode, and then to on Arbitrum Nitro EVM, and then have all the smart contracts below that. But with EVM Plus, you get Solidity to EVM, you still get that, but you also get Rust, C, C++, and other languages down to WASM, which then compiles down to the WASM VM, which exists as part of exists in the same kind of bucket as Arbitrum Nitro. As the EVM, which is the Arbitrum Nitro bucket, which then becomes smart contracts here. And as Offchain Labs says in their tweet, the EVM and WASM VM are fully interoperable. Stylus and Solidity contracts are composable. In Solidity, developers can call a Rust program or allow in dependencies in another language. In Rust, all Solidity functionality is accessible out of the box. I don't think people realize just how big of a deal this is. The fact that not only can you code up smart contracts in languages other than Solidity, but also that they're going to be interoperable with the EVM. So everything on the Arbitrum 1 chain, for example, will be interoperable here and will be able to talk to each other. But not only that, Rachel here, who is the tech lead at Offchain Labs, mentions that Arbitrum Stylus slashes fees across 4 categories. So compute becomes 10 to 100 times cheaper, memory becomes 100 to 500 times cheaper, storage via caching, VM affordances like KEKAC and reentrancy detection, and also she put together a thread here on how to get the most out of your Stylus contract. So just think about this for a sec, guys. If Arbitrum if these new contracts, these Stylus contracts, just at bare minimum 10 times cheaper than the existing contracts on Arbitrum 1 today, then throw in EIP 4844, then throw in any more performance improvements that that Offchain Labs makes to Arbitrum 1, we are quickly entering the world of sub-cent transaction fees on layer 2s here, guys. And this is not a ZK EVM, right? This is an optimistic rollup, something that people said were going to be more expensive or more clunky or whatever than ZK rollups or ZK EVMs, which isn't the case here. Arbitrum is really killing it on the execution side here in terms of onboarding and getting more developers to kind of build on the ecosystem, but also making things just like vastly more cheaper. So even if it is only 10 times at minimum cheaper, as I said, you throw in EIP 4844, and then you get the subset transaction fees on layer 2s, and I think that's going to lead to, as I've been calling for a while now, that layer 2 summer, right? That kind of like layer 2 summer where we get a lot of new money, a lot of new users coming on chain onto these L2s, not just Arbitrum 1 obviously, but a bunch of the other L2s as well, and they get to experience the joys of using Ethereum, but with just like the fraction of the cost, right? Sub-cent transaction fees on Ethereum. That has been the dream since like day 1 of Ethereum, right, guys? And we're almost there. We're so close. We're literally only a few months out from this. That's amazing to me. So yeah, I'm definitely very excited for that. I'm very excited to see the fees once EIP 4844 goes live and these layer 2s start taking advantage of the new blob style transactions. All right, so Sandeep from Polygon here had an interesting tweet over the weekend talking about how Polygon has basically had a lot of strong brand building on its ecosystem. And the latest is Lufthansa here, which is a loyalty program with 36 million members that have joined the Polygon ecosystem. So other, I guess, like big brands include Nike, McDonald's, Reddit, Coca-Cola, and many more actually that have been building on Polygon here, and Starbucks as well. Now, the reason I bring this up, and you guys know I'm an advisor to Polygon here, I just want to disclose that. Well, the reason I bring this up is because it goes back to what I was saying before about how this may not be interesting to crypto natives, but this is the kind of stuff that gets more and more people on chain, right? Gets more and more people involved with Web3, with crypto, gets them using the technology that we've been building for so long. And I think I mentioned maybe a couple of weeks ago when I went to that meetup and there was an NFT panel talking about how all these brands are working with NFTs and they're really excited about them because they're able to get their, I guess, physical products into the digital realm. Like, for example, with Nike, they have this dot swoosh thing on Polygon that is huge, where essentially they thought to themselves, well, people are playing video games, like they're playing their favorite video games, but they're not going to wear their favorite sneakers or apparel while they're playing these video games, right? Unless they're like a streamer or something like that. The casual player is not going to do that. So how does Nike get their products into the game? Well, they do it via digital products, via NFTs. They basically have these sneakers that are NFTs that people can buy, and they can wear them on their characters in game. And that's how Nike basically captures the sneakerhead market in the digital realm. And there's so many more examples of this, and I think it's really cool to see brands just getting more involved here and bringing more people on chain and exposing them to these things. I know that NFTs are generally still hated with like the gaming crowd and things like that, but I think that's just like a loud minority, to be honest. I think that the loud minority of gamers have been loud about lots of different things that they've been wrong on, because the companies are making a lot of money from doing this stuff and they're going to keep doing it, and it's very, very successful for them. So I wouldn't worry about that kind of noise there. But yeah, I guess like congrats to Polygon on landing another big brand as part of their kind of ecosystem umbrella here. All right, so there is a waitlist for Farcaster now. So I said to you guys before that Farcaster is opening to the public shortly with $5 a year kind of like a fee to all users. But if you want to get on the waitlist, you can. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But it is a very big waitlist right now. So apparently there has been 80,000 signups since September 1st. So I guess like that was 4 days and averaging roughly 1,000 an hour. Now, of course, a bunch of these are going to be Cybles and things like that, because people are going to be expecting an airdrop or stuff like that. But there was also more information shared by Dan Romero on Farcaster, actually, which I'm going to bring the tab over here. So I think this is like the first tab of Farcaster that I've showed on the refuel, but this is Dan just adding more information here, where he says 100% of the 80,000 signups were with an Ethereum address, 80% with a Twitter account, and 60% of the Ethereum addresses had more than a 0 ETH balance. And that's pretty cool, because it means that, there is maybe like a high chance that 60% of those are actually not kind of airdrop farmers, or at least like a decent chunk aren't airdrop farmers or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of people signing up for Farcaster right now. So if you want to do so, I'll link the sign up link in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so you guys might have thought that I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am going to talk about this for a little bit. So you guys know that over the weekend, Rune, the founder or one of the co-founders of MakerDAO, tweeted out a new kind of like forum post about Maker, where he said, the last phase of Endgame is the launch of a native blockchain for Maker with the code name NewChain. It will make the ecosystem more secure and efficient. Then he says, after some research, I believe the Solana codebase should be considered as the basis for NewChain. Now, I want to quickly describe exactly what Rune was proposing here. He's basically proposing a new L1 chain using Solana's technology, so basically forking Solana as a new L1 chain called NewChain, or I mean, that's just a placeholder name for now, where essentially governance could kick in and fork the chain at any time to deal with big issues with things. Basically, I don't know, if there was a hack or something like that, or some other kind of like undesirable thing happened on the chain. Now, Justin LaRue here quote tweeted this and said that basically what Rune wants, or what he's advocating for, is a privately controlled app chain to use hard forks to gracefully recover from the most severe form of governance attacks or technical failure, which completely negates all legitimacy achieved by initially building MakerDAO on a public blockchain. And from my view, what Rune really wants is his own private little playground that he can control, because Rune, from the last time I checked, is one of, if not the largest holders of MKR tokens, which means that he has the most influence over Maker governance. So he pretty much already has total control over Maker, or at least near total control over Maker. But what he doesn't have control over is the fork choice of Ethereum. So essentially what he wants is that he wants the Maker ecosystem to be on its own chain, where he can actually control the outcome of a fork, essentially. That's my read of it. Maybe that's a cynical read, but that's my read of it here. And it's funny because he says that he did research on this, but it doesn't seem like he did much research at all, because he actually didn't just mention Solana, but he mentioned other blockchains as well. He mentioned Sei, I believe, and Aptos. What he was really just looking for was like a high performance kind of I guess, chain for him to build this new version of Maker on, but it was not very clear exactly what he wanted out of this. And he also said that, and he also looked at Cosmos, by the way, but he also said this is several years out. So for him to be making a technology decision for something that potentially won't launch for several years, if ever, seems kind of weird to me. So this whole post was just very weird. And I'm not just saying that because it was Solana. I've praised Solana before in the past for its tech. I've said that Solana's tech is great, right? I've got nothing against its tech itself. I just think that its implementation as an L1 leaves a lot to be desired in a number of different number of different ways, and I'm not going to rehash that here. But yeah, generally what Rune posted here just didn't really make me bullish on anything at all. Honestly, if I had MKR, if I was holding MKR, I would have sold it. And Vitalik actually did sell his MKR after this announcement, which is a pretty funny kind of signal there, because Vitalik actually didn't need to say anything. All he had to do was sell his MKR on one of his publicly known addresses, and everyone latched onto it, and everyone knew what that was. It was basically Vitalik saying that I don't agree with the direction that MakerDAO is taking right now, not just with, I guess, like this new chain thing, but with a bunch of other things as well. But yeah, this was obviously very controversial. I don't think it was controversial because Rune chose the Solana code base. I think for Ethereans, it was very controversial because it goes against it further kind of like, I guess, like takes Maker away from where it originally was, and it basically makes Maker into this new thing, this new chain thing, where essentially it becomes Rune's playground from the outside looking in. At least it does to me here. And I think, yeah, Justin LaRue had the best take here, where it basically makes it a privately controlled app chain. And then what's the point, really, at the end of the day? If it's just privately controlled, if it's just like completely centralized, then really, what is the point? I don't see the point here. But yeah, you guys might have different thoughts on this. We did discuss it a bit in the Daily Gwei Discord channel, but if you want to jump into the discussion again, feel free to do so. All right, finally here, this episode's gone for 47 minutes. We're coming up on the longest ever refuel episode, besides the one I think I did after I was in Amsterdam last year. But this tweet, I said, late stage crypto crab markets are worse than the bear market for most people. It's the what if there's never another bull market phase of the crypto cycle, and it's where even multi-cyclers get shaken out and start to lose faith. Ironically, this is usually when the bull market returns. So I'm sure you've seen this lately, where essentially a lot of people are in the deep apathy phase right now because prices are doing literally nothing good. We pump off of good news, right? But really, that's just a very short-term pump, and the entire pump gets sold back down. Every single, I guess, like altcoin out there have retraced their entire 2023 pump, if not gone lower than their 2023 starting price. ETH and BTC have been range bound. They have been trading like shitcoins for a while now. They're not doing anything good. This leads, as I said, to apathy. It leads to multi-cyclers starting to doubt that the bull market will ever return, right? They start kind of losing faith. They start potentially getting shaken out. This is the exact same thing that happened in 2019, guys, in late 2019. I can't even begin to describe how exactly the same this is. I mean, I could go and dig out tweets from back then if I really wanted to put in the work, but I don't think I need to, because I know for a fact, based on my own experience with this, is that this is exactly the same thing that happened back then. People were losing faith, especially when it came to ETH, because ETH was getting slaughtered. I remember even me, in January of 2020, I think it was January 4th, 2020, I sent a message to some friends saying that if ETH BTC, because ETH BTC got crushed, right? If ETH BTC didn't start going up, if ETH didn't start going up from where it was, that I was losing faith that it ever would. Even me, who has been an ETH permeable for such a long time, Jan 2020, I wouldn't say I lost faith, but I was like right on the cliff's edge there. And what do you think happened after that? I remember the date because I remember just laughing to myself that what happened after that. January 4th, 2020. You can go look at the chart for yourself, but I'll bring it up on my screen just to illustrate exactly how perfect this was. January 2020. January 4th, I'm going to go to the exact day on my chart here because I want to tell you guys what the price was on January 24th. I should have had this up before, but you guys can't see my screen here, but it's on one of my other tabs. January 4th, 2020, the price of ETH was not the exact bottom here. It was $133, right? $133. It had done nothing good. In 2019, it had gone to $360 and then sold back to $130. It basically sold back to where it was at the beginning of 2019, or almost the beginning of 2019 here. And I posted on that day that I was very kind of not bearish, but like I was losing faith that we would ever have another bull market. Guess what happened after that? From January 4th, right? From January 4th to February 14th, so over the course of 5 or 6 weeks, ETH went up 116% in 41 days. It doubled. It went to $290. Now, of course, it came back down after that and dumped really hard and went to like $90, but that was the COVID dump. That was a black swan event, right? But then we continued after that. We just kept going up again and we started a new bull market. So what I'm trying to tell you is that when even the multi-cycle OG permabulls get bearish and start to lose faith, that is usually the peak or bottom. That is usually the end of the crab market. And I'm seeing some of it right now. I'm not seeing all of it. As I've said, I still think that we could go lower into the end of the year on ETH and BTC and obviously the other coins as well. But I just wanted to illustrate just how perfect that was, because I think I have a screenshot of that message somewhere, because I don't have the message history to look back on right now to my friends that I said this to. But I always look back on that and laugh. I laugh that the permabull, was starting to lose faith. And literally, because I hadn't lost faith during the whole bear market. I was stacking ETH. I hadn't lost faith on ETH at all. I was really, really bullish on ETH. But at that moment, I had like a moment of weakness where I was just like, come on. Like, how much more, brutality can ETH take here? It's nuked off ETH BTC. It's down 90% against BTC. It retraced its whole 2019 pump. Like, come on, something's got to give here. And I was right on the cliff's edge. And then from the next day, literally the next day, ETH went up only until the COVID dump, right? I mean, it only took like 41 days for ETH to pretty much like go up 2x, which was amazing to me. And honestly, when I look back on that, I just think to myself, that is like the best lesson. And that is a very similar feeling to what I'm feeling now. I'm not feeling that, guys. Like I don't think I'm going to be pushed to that point in this market. It's just a very different market for me now. And I'm in a very different position than I was back then. I mean, back then I think I had like, I think my portfolio was maybe like 20 grand back then, $20,000. And that was after putting in extra money during the bear market to buy more ETH. I really did not have much money in crypto at all at that time. And, I remember just thinking that. And yeah, I just wanted to illustrate that for you guys because it's just funny looking back on that now. And I'm seeing the same thing happen. So, ironically, when you see those OGs start to capitulate, that's probably when the bull market's coming back. But as I said, I still maintain that 2024 is going to be a very healthy year. I have relative confidence that we're going to see new all-time highs in the second half of next year, but we'll have to see how that shakes out. And I'm sure people are going to get wrecked for the remainder of this year because they're going to get shaken out on the last ditch of the crab market action, and then next year probably going to be another bull market, at least in my view. Anyway, we're at the 52-minute mark here, so I think I'm going to end it there. I'm out of content for today, but thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.